To recap, at the University of Missouri, black student groups have been complaining for months about racial slurs and other slights on the system's overwhelmingly white flagship campus in Columbia. Their efforts got a boost over the weekend when 30 black football players announced they would not participate in team activities until President Tim Wolf was removed. Well, yesterday, we heard that Missouri President Tim Wolf resigned, the resignation effective immediately. And now Missouri Chancellor Bowen Lofton is also stepping down. He announced that he will transition to a new coordinating research role for the UM system. Lofton came to Missouri in 2013 after serving as Texas A&M president. The Tigers will return to practice today and will play in Saturday's game versus BYU. Ryan Clark is with us. Good to see you, as always. We'll get to that jersey later. We're going to stay serious here. What impact is this going to have moving forward?
Well, for me, it's a huge win for a state that needed a win racially. With the Michael Brown case and the unrest in Ferguson and people feeling like, African Americans feeling like they didn't have a voice. African Americans feeling like they would not be heard and have not been heard. You also have to tip your cap to Jonathan Butler. He didn't have a team. He didn't have backing. He didn't have TV coverage. And he took a stand on his own for the injustices going on at the University of Missouri. And when I look at the players on this team, even when I first heard about it, when I was reading it on Twitter, I was nervous for them because they were, and in no situation do I want people to lose jobs. But they were calling for a man's job in a situation where many people see those players as privileged. They see those players as being blessed and given an opportunity to get an education. And I've heard it so many times that players should just shut up and play football. This university is giving you money to go to school. They're paying for your room and board. You should just hush. And so for those players to take a stand and say, you know what, we won't play football. And I've been an 18, 19, 20-year-old college football player. At that time, there was nothing more important to me in the world than getting on that field. And for those guys to take a stand and say, you know what, because of the rest of the students in this school, it's not about us. We're going to take this stand. I think the most powerful part of it for me wasn't the first picture with the African-American or the black players. It was the picture with the whole team. It sent the message that, you know what, it's not just about the inequalities they feel, because we all feel them, and we're all together. And for Coach Gary Pinkel, I first of all don't think he had a choice but to back his players, but I'm glad, but it's still the situation. It's hard to do that when you're a staff and faculty member of the university. But now when Gary Pinkel goes to sit in a home during recruiting and he sits across from a black mother and tells her, I have your son's best interest at heart, it's no longer lip service. So I think for all the people involved, for the school, for the players, for the coach, even some of the faculty and staff that begin to walk out, it's a total win in the sense of now Missouri, now the residents of this community see that, you know what, things can change. People will be heard. And you don't have to fight, you don't have to riot, you don't have to be violent. You just have to believe in it and do it. And so I think this whole situation is awesome from the beginning to the end.
Well said.
You want to go?
I want you to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take one more step back. After I had a night to sleep on it last night, you and I had a discussion on air about it yesterday in Chicopee, Mass. This was a very powerful thing that just happened. Obviously, we saw the ability of a football team to unite, stand up, and bring national attention to what was a campus, a very significant campus racial issue. Way to go. But I want to keep it in the perspective. Remember, this football team had fallen out of favor with its student body and its alumni because it's been one of the biggest disappointments in all of college football. Yeah, they've lost 5 of their last 6, is that right? They lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to my alma mater, not very good this year. Good on defense, not very good in general. So
they'll get better, though.
They'll get better. But the point here is that this really emphasizes how powerful a thing a college football team can be, because the administration risked losing $1 million over this to BYU. If push comes to shove and the football team says, we're out, we're not going to play BYU this coming Saturday, then Missouri would have to write a $1 million check to BYU. This is power that has not been exercised before. So you have been a long-time player rep, prominent member of the NFL Players Association, so I hope you can appreciate what I'm saying here. I'm going to do another step back to the power of college football players to unite, to rally, to mobilize, dare I say, to unionize. For this was a racial issue here, God bless. But at some point it could turn into a bigger issue. It could come into, is it time to pay the players issue that we talk about for years on this show. It's been my pet peeve about college football. Well, at some point, I hope everybody can step back. I know this was a racial issue, but there's another injustice, a more sweeping injustice in college football, that you are risking life and limb for dear old you, and you're not getting much in return for it. I know you get room, board, and tuition, and as you say, shut up and play, and you know, you can be big man on campus. I get all that. But Ryan Clark was lucky because he didn't tear up anything at LSU. You got a chance to play pro football, and you made the most of it and had a great career. But these kids, some of them will hurt themselves in college, and they won't make any money in pro football. So I'm just saying, I'm appreciating the power. This is a paradigm shift that we saw here. Again, we were in the racial context this time. At some point, I hope everybody around the country, black, white, whatever color at colleges, say, we can do this, but you're going to have to all unite together and pull together to say we deserve better than we're getting here. That's just my step back take on it.
Ryan, Skip came to me this morning and brought up this subject for us to discuss. I have an obligation to tell my viewing audience that I didn't want to discuss this today. And the reason I didn't want to discuss this today is because, similar to what Mike and Mike were alluding to this morning, if you don't people want you to speak up when you agree with them. They don't want to hear the other stuff. And with me, there's going to always be the other stuff. Jonathan Butler is a young man that I admire. His courage, his courageousness, you want to use the word heroism, go right ahead. He deserves it. Graduate student, educated, trying to do something with his future, runs across a president that he is talking to and trying to enlighten about the racial injustices that are taking place on that campus. At the very least, you came across as indifferent and apathetic to the concerns of the Jonathan Butlers and others on that campus. And as a result of it, it cost Tom Wolf his job, and it deserved, at least so, cost him his job. Because as an individual in an authoritative position at an institution of higher learning, it's criminal for you not to be sensitive to your student body, particularly when they have these kind of concerns. The cotton balls being thrown outside, the swastika on a building, and I mean, are you kidding me? And you didn't put forth your due diligence in the aftermath of being presented with this information. It was criminal. A criminal negligence, as far as I'm concerned, what Tom Wolf did as president of that university. He should be ashamed of himself and go back to the business world, because you damn sure don't need to be being a president of an institution of higher learning when you make those mistakes. So we throw all of that out. And we make sure that we applaud the athletes as well for their courage in standing up and joining in unison with Jonathan Butler. And we can talk about professional athletes, because if college athletes can do it, professional athletes making millions of dollars should have the same amount of coverage, which we have seen in recent memory. LeBron James, the Miami Heat with the whole Trayvon Martin situation, the list goes on. In recent memory, we've seen that. So we throw all of that out there, and that's a given. And obviously, I echo every word you said. Except when it comes to me, Skip, I don't stop there. When it comes to me, Ryan, I don't stop there. And the reason I can't stop there is because I know what's going on in our community. I know the kind of things that we're doing to one another. See, we sit up there and we applaud Jonathan Butler for his courage. You understand? Knowing most of us wouldn't do it. You understand? Most folks out there wouldn't do what Skip and me and you do on the air. You think it's easy sitting up here, putting our careers on the line, taking some of the positions that we take, knowing that anything that we say could go viral and how it could ultimately negatively impact us? That takes some degree of courage. Nothing compared to Jonathan Butler, mind you, but nevertheless, it takes some degree of courage. You look at other folks, they talk the talk, but they don't want to do anything. And then you got black folks out here, and think about this. Jonathan Butler has you thinking about pre-civil rights. It has you thinking about folks marching on Washington. It has you thinking about Selma. It has you thinking about all of these places. People will bring that up, but go and watch some of these shows on reality TV. You know, so where we're prostituting ourselves, doing the kind of things that are literally dragging the moral compass of our community down, doing things that in no way represents those who were pioneers before us that set the path for us to shine and move forward. Jonathan Butler represents it. Those players that stood with him represented. Coach Pinko represents it, because during the civil rights movement, when black folks were marching, we wouldn't have been as successful if some white folks didn't join them in marching for rights on behalf of the black community. But then when it comes to us looking at ourselves, trust me when I tell you, everything that I said for the first few minutes just got ignored because of what I just said the last minute. We don't want to deal with that. But the real world is waiting. And at the end of the day, Jonathan Butler is an individual that is pursuing his education, trying to be excellent and exceptional, trying to do the right things. And along the way, he found an injustice that he could not tolerate, that he was able to highlight and bring attention to, and he addressed it with the fervor and the tenacity and the moral compass it deserved. The question is, how many of us can say we attack things with that approach? I'm just asking a question, and I'm going to leave it at that. By the way, I'll be talking about it on my radio show, too, because I don't want people thinking I'm running. I don't want people to think I'm running. I'll be on Mad Dog Sports Radio at 1 o'clock. You can find me.
Running from what?
Because they'll come at me, Skip. I can't deal with Stephen A., Uncle Tom, Sellout, all of this other stuff, because I'm talking about what we're doing that not only contributes to our own demise, but in no way replicates the people who have made sacrifices for us long before me and Ryan ever got here.
Can you give us a specific on that?
What do you mean?
On things that you don't like that are being done that undermine what has been accomplished? Well,
I think the way we carry ourselves, I think the way, you know, when you see some of this stuff that goes on with reality TV, I mean, I'm looking at black women on TV spitting in each other's faces and fighting and doing all of that stuff. I'm looking at brothers just doing things I can't even repeat on the air. I can't believe it got on the air. You know, and it is in no way indicative, not only of pre-civil rights movement, civil rights movement, period. It's also not indicative of how we were raised.
I think the larger part of that, too, as well, though, is it's just being put on TV.
Right.
Growing up where you grew up, growing up where I grew up, you see that. So the bigger part of it, if we want to change the perception that's being put out because some of these things get filmed, or because they get talked about, even in situations like Greg Hardy's involved in.
Exactly.
All of that sets us back.
Right.
And the bigger issue is not about what you do on TV. It's not about where you take a stand. It's about when Stephen A. goes talk to 25 young kids, young black kids. When I'm called to a camp in Louisiana and I got things to do, and I say, you know what, I'm going to take this 20 minutes and go talk to them. Those things don't need to be promoted, but those things need to be done.
Right.
And so the larger issue is these women or these situations where you're saying people are spitting in each other's faces or doing things on TV, they're doing them anyway. Well, they've just found a way to. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're correct. But I'm saying we have to get into the fabric of our communities to change those things. And people don't. And I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, and people don't want to go do that.
But I'm not. I don't. And I appreciate that. But I'm not challenging what you're saying. I'm simply pointing out that we can't stop there and say, well, it's just on TV, Skip, Molly, because here's the deal. Yes, it's on TV. Yes, we need to focus on the powers that be that promote and put it on TV.
And glorify
because you can go to somebody that's a bit, you know, come from an impoverished background that ain't making but so much money, and you throw this money in the face and you call it reality TV, but you're dictating what they do for the cameras, etc., etc. But at the same time, you also know what you're doing, how it will be projected. The difference is you got to ask yourself how much you care or you don't care. One of the things that I do, Skip, I got a lot of friends in this business. One of the people that I listen to every morning, you know, yes, I do listen to the Sean Hannity, just like I watch CNN, just like I watch Chris Matthews. But I also listen to Joe Madison on Sirius XM, the Black Eagle. I also listen to my girl Karen Hunter on Sirius XM. She comes on every day now from 3 to 6. I listen to folks from my community who are spewing the kind of things that I'm saying on a far more knowledgeable basis because it's what they do every day. How many of these kids out there listening to them? How much of these folks out there are getting guidance from them? I learn from Ryan every day. I'm sure he might learn something from me here or there or whatever. But the mission is the same. The problem is that we talk about it and we look at something like this, and I admire Jonathan Butler. It's not about him. Yeah. He's unbelievable, and so are those football players. My problem is I don't want other folks looking at that situation from our community and think, okay, we get to cry about racism with everything. No, you do not. In some instances, it's valid, and in some instances, it's not. You have to go about the business of pounding your payment. Jonathan Butler had a very viable argument, and he exercised it exceptionally well. Some of us, a few of us, don't have that argument, but we'll try to use it as an excuse every way to blame somebody else for keeping them down, as opposed to pounding the pavement, putting on your bootstraps, putting in the hard work and doing what you have to do, and not looking at yourself as the victim, because we have a future generation to think about, and that future generation doesn't need to have any kind of crutch, because the world ain't gonna hear them.
All right, full circle, back to a conclusion. Would Jonathan Butler have succeeded without the football team?
No.
No. And you know what? He wouldn't have succeeded without the football team, and he would not have succeeded without social media.
Good point.
The athletes having such a platform, but they banded together peacefully. The president resigned, the chancellor stepped down, and they shouldn't be leading men, our youth, if they're going to turn their cheek to those injustices, so we applaud them. Moving forward, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers fall on Monday night. So how much is Rivers to blame for the team's struggles? We'll get into that after the break. Ryan Clark, you'll be back with us.
Each time I try to say